Hello and welcome. My name is Tyler, and this is the second part of my Pokemon Crystal Living Dex challenge. If you missed part 1, then check out the link in the description below. The rules are simple. Have one of each Pokemon in the National Dex order stored in the PC. Not just registered in the Pokedex, but have the entire line in the PC. That means not just having Venusaur, but Bulbasaur and Ivysaur as well. In part 1, I got partway through Crystal, finished Gold, and got partway through Red. In this video, we finish the challenge. We start off with Pokemon Blue here, choosing the speedrun MVP, Squirtle. I saved Squirtle for this section specifically for that reason, to speedrun the game. Pokemon Red will be a complete game file, where Blue is to get version exclusives, as well as some of the higher encounter rate Pokemon. That being said, Squirtle easily dominates the competition, leading all the way to Brock, who is worn down by 1,000 years worth of erosion compounded into 3 bubble attacks. We move directly onto Route 3 without healing, and the predecessor to youngster Joey knocks us out. I wasn't too concerned because I thought it would save me time from having to walk all the way back to the Pokemon Center, but I forgot I hadn't healed in Pewter City at all, so I spawned all the way back in Viridian. Not great for a speedrun. After trudging all the way back to Route 3, we teach the punk a lesson and evolve Squirtle into Wartortle. In Mount Moon, we collect a Moonstone and catch 2 Clefairy, evolving one into Clefable immediately after. We take care of super nerd Bill Gates and take the Dome Fossil, having picked up the Helix Fossil in Red. In the Cerulean rival battle, Wartortle asks Bulbasaur, "What's type advantage?" and we lay the smack down to everyone in our way on the path to Bill's cottage. What is type advantage? In Vermilion City, we board the SSN and walk past all the cabins heading straight to the rival fight. After we win, the captain gives us cut, then I try to black out so I can respawn in Cerulean and save the trip. Well, after many minutes of Wartortle refusing to lose a fight, I realize that I haven't gotten the bike voucher yet, and that I would have been in Cerulean by now if I had just walked. I'm so good at speedruns. Refusing to give up my speedrun strat, I catch a Diglett and dig back to Cerulean with a bike voucher. Then without any Pokemon that can learn Cut, damn you Gen 1, I have to catch a Bellsprout before going into Misty's gym and showing her the power of a good water type. Actually, Starmie is busted, it's just underutilized here. We get to Rock Tunnel, making sure to heal at the Pokemon Center. Don't want to respawn all the way back in Cerulean if we black out again. That would suck. We strategically stumble through the blackness of Rock Tunnel and make it out alive into Lavender Town. Can I just say that I love this dialogue in front of Lavender Tower? It really adds to the ambiance. We make our way to Celadon City, being sure to skip as many trainers as possible along the way. A quick trip up a few flights of stairs and we steal this man's Eevee, then evolve it into Jolteon to get rid of the evidence. At the top of the department store, this girl turns a bottle of water into Ice Beam, which will get Wartortle through the rest of the game relatively unmatched in strength. We barge into the Rocket hideout below the game corner, burst into Giovanni's room, and Wartortle starts blasting. Giovanni gives us the Sylph Scope, which we absolutely did not ask for. Then to save time, I use Dig to get back to Lavender Town Pokemon Center. Oh. Well, that was a huge mistake. Or it would have been if I didn't buy a spare fresh water to give to the guard at Saffron. We take this quick detour to challenge the Karate Dojo, evolving Wartortle into Blastoise and collecting Hitmonchan for our victory. With that totally planned section done, we go back to Lavender to take on Gary, and since Blastoise is 12 levels higher than his Ivysaur, type advantage does nothing to help him. At the top of the tower, Blastoise embarrasses Team Rocket yet again, and Mr. Fuji gives us the Poke-Flute, which in case you're unaware, is used to wake up the Snorlax either west of Celadon City or south of Lavender Town. There are only 2 in the game, so I don't want to mess up this opportunity to catch one of the strongest Pokemon. Anyways, we race down Cycling Hill, avoiding all the trainers, and go to Koga's gym, where we have to battle all the trainers. We get through the hardest invisible wall puzzle in the entire building, and face off against a living ninja, Koga, the Poison Master. His poison and sleep techniques will leave me helpless. Well, that's one way to end a battle. East of Fuchsia, we catch a Bellsprout and evolve it into Weepinbell, then use a Leaf Stone to evolve it into Victreebel. At the north end of town, we enter the Safari Zone where we find a set of gold teeth. Well, I'd be surprised, but there's actually a bunch of gold nuggets laying around the ground all over Kanto. I'm more confused how somebody had their teeth fall out of their mouth and not even notice. We then pick up the HM for Surf before catching a female Nidoran and an Execute, evolving both into a Nidoqueen and an Exeggutor respectively. I then finally found another Nidorina while running out the clock. Now that I can use Surf, I'm able to move on to the last area I need. I'll just fly back to Pallet Town. Oh, wait, I don't have a flyer. I'll just catch a Spearow real quick. And I don't have the HM for Fly. I'll just go back up Cycling Road and grab it. And I don't have Lieutenant Surge's badge, which is apparently a flying license. I really don't want to deal with his trash can games. I'll just ride through Digless Cave. Now back in Pallet Town, we can surf south to Cinnabar Island, where we revive the Dome Fossil to get a Kabuto. We then take a quick detour to the 3rd floor of the Pokemon Mansion to catch 2 Vulpix, a Muck, and a Magmar. Then surfing east, we land on the Seafoam Islands where we catch a Staryu, a Shelder, and a Dugong, before we catch our very first legendary bird, Articuno. A quick dig then takes us all the way back to Fuchsia so we can take another ride back up to Celadon, where I can purchase some more evolution stones that I forgot to get earlier. 2 water stones allows us to evolve Shelder into Cloyster, and Staryu into Starmie, and a Firestone evolves Vulpix into Ninetales. If you're wondering why I'm evolving these Pokemon in Red and Blue instead of Crystal where they are also catchable, it's because the evolutionary stones are infinitely easier to obtain in Gen 1, being purchasable at the Celadon department store rather than only being able to get one of each stone from Bill's grandpa in the Gen 2 postgame. Or get a lucky phone call if you have the correct phone numbers in Crystal. With all that taken care of in Blue, we can put it aside as we are done everything required until Crystal is ready to trade an army of Pidgeys and Rattatas over. Moving back into Pokemon Red, we can carry on south of Lavender Town, beating Snorlax for experience, and collecting the Super Rod before working our way down to Route 15, where I can't find a single Gloom for the life of me, so I'm forced to resort to catching 2 Oddishes using 2 rare candies to evolve them, then evolve one of them into Vileplume with a Leaf Stone. We can then use our Super Rod in the pond in Celadon to catch 2 Poliwhirls, then... oh, look, we're in Koga's gym again already. Hopefully he doesn't do the same thing as in Blue, and he's done it. Back to the Safari Zone again. This time we only need to catch a Nidorino, immediately evolving it into Nidoking. We then pick up another set of gold teeth and the HM for Surf. The Game Warden pops in his gold teeth without washing them and gives us strength again. We go back up to Celadon to get the evolutionary stones I'll need to evolve Poliwhirl into Poliwrath. Flying back to Pewter City, a man in the back of the museum gifts us an old Amber, which we will be able to revive in Cinnabar, which is a great segue, so we'll start heading down south, evolving Dratini into Dragonair in the grass south of Pallet Town, as well as capture Pidgeotto, which will be temporarily joining our team. We sail across the sea, heading straight for the Pokemon Lab, and revive both our fossils, giving us an Aerodactyl and an Omanyte. While we're in Cinnabar, I decide to enter the home of fire types, so we can get the secret key, and on the way we catch a Weezing and a Growlithe, which I evolve into Arcanine. I then fly to Cerulean and head east to the home of electric types, where I struggle to find a Pikachu for 20 minutes before one finally graces us with his presence. I'm able to catch 2 Pikachu, evolving one into Raichu, and then after 15 minutes I remember to use the Repel trick to find Electabuzz and Magneton before catching the second legendary bird, Zapdos. Silphco is next on our list of places to liberate, heading straight to the card key on the 5th floor, and after laying waste to all of the Team Rocket grunts, Omanyte evolves into Omastar. Look at that friendly little cephalopod. He's just power walking down the street waving to people like, "Hi Shannon, how's the kids today?" We beat rival Blue once again, and this random guy watching is so impressed that he gives us a Lapras. We crippled Giovanni's team with Ice Beam, and the Silphco president gives us a Master Ball. All sorts of good things coming to us in here. In the inferior Saffron Gym, Pidgeotto shows us the true power of super effective moves, being the most useful it's ever been, evolving into Pidgeot and earning us Hitmonlee. In the Superior Saffron Gym, I wander aimlessly, getting very motion sick from all the constant rewriting of my genetic DNA, and when I find Sabrina, she tells of her foreseeing of our battle and how I rap-stall her Alakazam with Dragonair, and she surrenders the gym badge without a fight. With that moral victory and a secret key under our belt, Blaine is next on the chopping block. I send in Lord Helix, and the legendary Pokemon Arcanine becomes extinct. This next section of the game is going to be a long slog, the longest section of the game. We need to fly all the way back to Viridian City, and from there we walk straight to the newly unlocked gym, and who could the leader be? Is it Professor Oak? Pokemaniac Bill? The catching tutorial guy? Oh, it's you again. Relax, man. It's not that funny. We quickly dispatch of Giovanni with Surf, and... Dude, stop laughing! We head west to Route 22 for another rival battle, and despite only having 4 Pokemon that are decently leveled, we have all our bases covered for battling him, which helps me feel a bit more confident for the final battle after the Elite Four. And after Zapdos learns Thunder at 51, then we'll be even more set. He heads to the Indigo Plateau ahead of us. At the 7th guard, we search the grass until we find a Fearow, which takes 8 Great Balls to catch, even though its health is in the red, and it's also frozen. Moving into Victory Road, we quickly find 2 Machoke to catch, as well as a Marowak, before catching the 3rd and final legendary bird, Moltres. With Moltres caught, we are finished catching all the necessary Pokemon prior to the Elite Four. The battles are pretty standard here. Zapdos takes care of all of Lorelei's water types, and I switch to Charizard to Fire Blast Jinx, forgetting that fire doesn't resist ice in Gen 1, so Charizard takes an ice punch to the schnoz, and Omastar comes in for the revenge kill. Zapdos falls just short with Thunder against Lapras, but gets the paralysis, allowing Dragonair to outspeed and knock it out. Zapdos murks Bruno's fighting types, and Agatha has her last Pokemon do the Do-Si-Do half a dozen times, prolonging her inevitable demise. We get to Lance, and Dragonair handles most of his team, backed up by a few full restores, and Omastar with a final blizzard. We get to the champion, and as I had guessed earlier, our team easily handles everything he throws at us. Oak takes us to the Hall of Fame, and the credits begin to roll. I'll just do a quick reset to skip the credits and get back to Pallet Town quickly, and you've got to be kidding me. We beat Gary again, thank Mewtwo I saved, and watched the entire credits this time. Well, I took a break while the credits rolled. I can't be bothered to read 5 minutes of credits filled with names I can't pronounce. Although I do appreciate them all, truly. After waking up on our own doorstep, we are ready for the final challenge. The toughest dungeon in the game. A secret hidden area that is easily missable for first time players, where the wild Pokemon levels are in the mid-40s all the way up to the mid-60s. The first time you visit Cerulean City, you won't even notice this place exists, and if you happen to come back here after you get Surf, it is still inaccessible due to the man standing in front, blocking the entrance. Only after you've become the champion will you have access to this cave. It's a fun secret area that has many dead ends and tough Pokemon to whittle you down with strong defenses and stronger offenses while you explore and get lost. But at the end is a big reward, which is one of the 4 reasons why we're here. Reason number 1 is that we need to catch a Hypno. Reasons 2 and 3 are Chanseys, which are far easier to find and catch here rather than Safari Zone in Fuchsia. And reason 4 is the big man himself, Mewtwo. Mewtwo has the lowest catch rate in the game, along with the 3 legendary birds, and has many powerful attacks to knock out your Pokemon while it quite literally dodges your Pokeballs. It's a tough challenge that separates the girls and the boys from the women and the men, and after nearly 10 seconds I managed to capture it, ending the catching journey in Pokemon Red. We'll head back to Crystal, but first we have to trade Eevee from Gold to Red and evolve it into Vaporeon. If you've made it this far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Also, let me know in the comments what your first shiny Pokemon was and how happy you were with it. We then pick back up where we left off in Crystal, in Ecruteak City. We start off with getting the Pokemon that need to evolve from Friendship, and after Crobat and Togetic, that leaves the 2 new evolutions, Umbreon and Espeon, as well as Blissey. So we trade over a slightly over-leveled Chansey from Red, pick up an Eevee from Bill, which will be the one staying as an Eevee, and breed 2 fresh Eevees, hatching the odd egg while we wait, receiving a Smoochum, which saves us from having to breed Jinx later. Chikorita evolves into Bayleaf, and now we're ready to enter the Burned Tower. We are greeted by Eugene and Morty, who don't walk past the first 5 feet of the entrance, wondering why they don't see any legendary Pokemon. Up ahead we find rival Gavin, who progressively is becoming more and more my least favorite character in the franchise. Next time, I swear I'm naming him Caillou. We pull a fast one on him, sending out the starter with a type advantage. How you like them apples? He whines some more after I beat him, then the ground collapses from underneath me, and I probably won't have any knee problems later in life. Suicune sees us stick the landing, then does a nice number before taking off to Cianwood. We'll be after you soon, Suicune. We catch a coughing before heading on to the next objective. We take on Morty, this time armed with mint berries, and Quagsire leaves no prisoners. We stop by at the dance hall to say hello to my girls, collecting the HM for Surf, then heading west to Route 38 where we find a Miltank, Magnemite, and Eradicate. Then in Olivine we get a good rod as well as the HM for Strength. We then start to climb the lighthouse and find the 6th gym leader, Jasmine, at the top. She gives us a fetch quest, then we guarantee our future knee problems, and then head to the beach to smash some rocks until we find a Shuckle. And on the water we find a Tentacool and a Tentacruel. In Cianwood, we collect the secret potion, then head north to watch Suicune run on water, and then get assaulted by Eugene, who surprises me yet again with his 100% accurate Hypnosis Dream Eater strat. We then make our way through the 5th gym and challenge this Roid Monkey to a battle, and Bayleaf wins us a badge. Chuck's wife gives us the HM for Fly, which takes us back to Ecruteak, and we head west to Mount Mortar, where we catch a Golbat and a Machop. We can then work our way up to the Lake of Angry Fish and catch a very special Angry Fish. This big guy was a lot of people's very first shiny Pokemon, which I had no idea was an actual game mechanic that spilled over into other encounters. I thought it was just this red Gyarados. Because if there's one thing Game Freak is bad at, it's explaining their game mechanics. Looking at you, IVs. In Mahogany, we challenge the Rocket Hideout and battle these 2 numbskulls who appear every time you walk in front of these statues. I remember as a kid always making sure to walk in front of everyone just to get every last drop of experience, but now, who has the time? So we flip the magic switch and they leave us alone. We go deeper into the hideout where Lance tells us about the passwords we need to find, so we grab both of those and waste no time heading straight for the Rocket Executive. We then get access to the Electrode Room and shut off the funky radio signal. Hopefully nobody turns it back on with more electrodes after we leave. I realize here that we've got a lot of eggs to breed, so I head back to the illegal Pokemon mill and get started on that, leaving Jigglypuff and Ditto together to get an Igglybuff egg. But we'll come back to that later. Back in Mahogany, we skate around again until we fluke upon the gym leader Price. My ragtag group is rewarded with a badge after losses on both sides. Time to head outside and get a call from Professor Elm about the radio tower. Why didn't I get that call? Yeah, crap. I forgot to bring the secret potion to Jasmine. Hopefully this isn't a timed event where Ampharos doesn't make it if you don't get the potion on time. But I got distracted again here, and decided it was a good time to trade some Pokemon over from Gold. So I go back to Cherry Grove and find some low-level Pokemon that will surely be easy to catch. Why won't this Rattata stay in the bowl? After spending half a night and all my Pokeballs, I finally catch a few Pokemon to trade, so I send over a Graveler, a Seadra with a Dragon Scale, an Onix with a Metal Coat, a Slowpoke with a King's Rock, Ampharos, and a Paris with False Swipe, because I was so fed up with these easy encounters not being easy. Trading and evolving ensues, and we're left with a Golem, Kingdra, Steelix, and Slowking, as well as an Ampharos and Paris. We then take a little side trip here to catch a Golduck north of Goldenrod, as well as a Stantler and Ariados south of Ecruteak. Then finally, a week after we get the potion, we make our way back up the lighthouse, evolving Bayleaf into Meganium and saving the lighthouse as well as all the ships pulling into the harbor. Jasmine poses absolutely zero threat to Quilava and Quagsire, who I've just named the QTs, because they both start with letter Q, and there's T for 2 of them, and they're adorable. Never mind. On the way to the radio tower, we stop and catch a Krabby and Olivine, and since it's nighttime, Meowth on Route 38 and 2 Marill in Mount Mortar. We also pick up an Igglybuff egg from the daycare, but I won't be going through all of those. I'll just show the hatching compilation later. We lay the smack down all the way up the radio tower, and holy shit, never have I wanted Quagsire to have the damp ability more than I do now. In the underground, Paris evolves into Parasect, and Quilava evolves into Typhlosion, and we hatch our Eevee eggs, but we'll be leaving the counts the same for now. We finish the radio tower sequence, and receive the clear bell for our efforts. We also do a bit of trading here, but since it was all Pokemon I've previously mentioned catching, I won't go over them again. Although I did use a Sunstone on one of them to obtain a Sunflora. Finally released from the Team Rocket Purgatory, we can move towards the final gym and catch a Delibird and a Sneasel in the Ice Path. We then take Old Reliable out of the PC. We beat Claire and receive the Rising Badge and a Dratini. In Newbark Town, Professor Elm gives us our first Master Ball. We then fish with a good rod for a Chinchou, and on Route 28 we catch 2 Doduo, an Arbok, and on Route 27 a Ponyta and a Sandslash, and in Victory Road a Graveler and a Rhyhorn. We then beat our rival one last time. The Elite Four awaits us for the first, but probably not the last time, and it goes quite smoothly, especially since we're using mostly the same team as in Gold, except with Typhlosion instead of Ho-Oh, and this time, Lance doesn't cheat nearly as bad as it did before. I managed to win without wanting to find the person who programmed Lance and toss him around until they feel like they got blasted by a Dragonite's Hyper Beam. We wake up in bed with no recollection of how we actually got here, so I'm going to assume we partied a little too hard after beating the Elite Four, and some kind soul brought us back. I won't question it further. Professor Elm calls us with yet another gift for us to collect from him, and we travel to Olivine City to board the cruise liner ship SS Aqua. We are nearly trampled as we board by an old man who lost his granddaughter. Been there, man. And after searching all the cabins on deck, looking for a missing child and definitely not anyone's valuables, we head downstairs where we are blocked by a sailor who is missing his crewmate. We head back upstairs and all of a sudden this guy gets all defensive. Like he didn't care the first time we came in here. We battle him and he gets his lazy ass back to work. We can then go bother the captain, and lo and behold, there is a young girl with him. Oh boy. So we bring him back to the grandfather and he's like, "Tyler, was it? I heard you entertained my granddaughter." And I'm like, "Whoa man, I don't even know who Tyler is, and I've never seen this girl before." So I take his shiny jacket and leave the ship as soon as possible. We arrive in Vermilion and head north, hearing word that the power plant is down. Being the eternal hero that we are, we head over to see what we can fix. And on Route 10, we catch a Seaking, Goldeen, and Voltorb. The power plant manager gives us a quest to find the missing parts, so we head over to Cerulean, where the criminal-looking fellow was just seen. We retrieve the power panel parts and return them so we can open up the rest of Kanto. We start by heading to Lavender Town, catching an Abra on the way and evolving it into Kadabra, then picking up the expansion card for our Pokegear with the sole purpose of snagging the sleeping Snorlax near Vermilion City. South of Lavender, we grab the Super Rod again, which opens many encounters for us to pick up. In Saffron City, we return the Copycat's Pokédoll to her after rescuing it from a fully grown man in Vermilion, which nets us the train pass, allowing us to freely and easily travel back and forth between Johto and Kanto. But for now, we're going to catch a Snorlax, then in Diglett's Tunnel, catch a Diglett. We begin the Kanto badge collecting extravaganza, and we rock Brock, and our reward is the Boulder badge and a Silver Wing. We head east of Pewter City and arrive in Mount Moon, where we battle our rival. One last time. North of Cerulean, we interrupt Misty at Makeout Point, then mop her up at the gym to add some brine to her wounds. In Vermilion, we ground Lieutenant Surge, and we spend some time on Route 7 at night catching a Persian, Murkrow, and 2 Houndour, before pruning Erica and getting a call from Bugcatcher Arnie saying there's finally a Yanma swarm. So we head back to Johto to catch one. With the last swarm out of the way, we head back to Kanto to gas Janine, hypnotize Sabrina, and set fire to Blaine, finally evolving Dragonair into Dragonite, as well as Doduo into Dodrio. We fly back to Cinnabar Island to meet Blue, before battling him in Viridian City, turning him into a secondary color. With all 16 badges under our belt, or in our jacket, or wherever they're kept, we've got some major cleanup to do. In New Barktown, we pull out the Super Rod to fish for a Lantern, and in the Ruins of Alph, we catch a Wooper, 2 Natu, and a Smeargle. In Slowpoke Well, we grab another King's Rock. As for Headbutt Trees, in Ilex Forest, we risk brain damage for a Pineco, and on Route 42, we find an Apom in a regular tree, and a Heracross in a special tree. We then head over to Olivine Harbor to use the Super Rod again, catching a Shelder, a Staryu at night, and a Corsola and Kingler in the day. Surfing from here, we enter the northeast entrance to Whirl Islands, catching a Seal and a Horsey on the way to the inner cave, where we find Lugia, which was, believe it or not, the hardest capture in this challenge so far. South of the Lake of Rage, on Route 43 in the day, we catch a Farfetch'd and a Furret. East of Mahogany on Route 44, you have to use Surf to find some hidden grass to find Lickitung, Weepinbell, and Tangela. We then return to Ice Path in the daytime to catch the 2 Swinub I ignored earlier for some reason, as well as the low encounter Jinx. South of Blackthorn on Route 45 in the morning, we can catch a Gligar, Donphan, Phanpy, and Skarmory. We then enter Dark Cave from Route 45 to find Teddiursa, Ursaring, and then switch to night to find a Wobbuffet. And in the Dragon's Den, we hook a Dragonair with the Super Rod. I realized that I missed a few things which I would have just put in the right place for footage, but then the levels of some Pokemon wouldn't have added up and ruined the continuity. So we went back to the National Park bug catching contest to catch a first place Scyther and snag another Sunstone, and on Route 38 I catch a Tauros. I then decided it was time to tackle Mount Mortar, which I've dreaded as I really don't like this cave, and I've already done it in this challenge, but we make it to the Karate Master and receive a Tyrogue. It's now time to take the train back to Kanto. On Cycling Road at day, we catch a Grimer and 2 Slugma. On Route 15 at night, we catch a Venonat, and then on Route 14 in the day, we catch 2 Hoppip and a Nidorino, and south of Pallet Town in the grass, we catch a Mr. Mime. On Route 7, we catch a Granbull, and on the docks south of Lavender, we catch a Quillfish with a Super Rod, and in Rock Tunnel, we catch a Cubone and a Kangaskhan. And finally, outside of Mount Silver, we catch a Rapidash, and inside of Mount Silver at night, after searching for 15 minutes, I finally find a Mischievous. No! And in the day, we catch 2 Larvitar and a Pupitar, finishing all wild, non-legendary encounters for this challenge. Now for hatching and evolving. After cycling up and down Goldenrod for a few hours, we were able to breed and hatch 2 Bulbasaur, 2 Charmanders, 2 Squirtles, 2 Chikoritas, 2 Cyndaquils, 2 Totodiles, a Magby, Elekid, Cleffa, Pichu, Igglybuff, Kabuto, and Omanite. As for evolutions, with optimal or suboptimal experience spread and the power of Mewtwo, we do some Elite Four runs, evolving Bulbasaur into Ivysaur, Charmander into Charmeleon, Squirtle into Wartortle, Chikorita into Bayleaf, Cyndaquil into Quilava, Totodile into Croconaw, Slugma into Macargo, Marill into Azumarill, Natu into Xatu, Swinub into Piloswine, Mankey into Primeape, Kabuto to Kabutops, 2 Hoppip into Skiploom and a Skiploom into Jumpluff, Eevee into Espeon and Eevee into Umbreon. We then spend a disgusting amount of time trying to get Tyrogue to evolve into a Hitmontop, Larvitar into Pupitar, and then Pupitar into Tyranitar. Now with a ton of money, we can afford to go buy 2 Porygons, and after picking up an upgrade from Silphco and Saffron, trade one to get a Porygon 2, and a Gengar, Machamp, Scizor, and Politoed. Now there are just 4 Pokemon left, 2 of which I've been absolutely dreading, Entei and Raikou. The introduction of roaming Pokemon was the worst addition since the Safari Zone. It's like that they don't want you to use these Pokemon ever. I did a bit of research beforehand and found out that the best way to go about this is having a level 35 to 39-ish Pokemon in the first party slot, fly to Ecruteak, use a max repel, and head south, biking around in the patch of grass for a bit on 3 separate routes. Route 37, 36, and 35. After your max repel runs out, on Route 35, fly back to Ecruteak and try again. Apparently going back and forth between only 2 routes puts in an additional effect which makes it harder to find them. I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but I gave it a try. It took a really long time running out of all my repels, but after I ran out and soft reset my game, it only took 1 or 2 more runs before I found Entei. Then I saved, reset, and found Raikou shortly after, using the Master Balls to save hours of frustration. In Ecruteak, we started towards the Tin Tower before being tested by 3 sages, who each have an original evolution, which kind of further proves the Raikou, Entei, and Suicune being reincarnated from Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. I'm not sure if this has actually been confirmed or not, but it's cool either way. After being allowed to pass, we encounter Suicune, who is fairly stubborn to catch, but after the first reset, we were able to catch it. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. Number 251, Celebi. There is a glitch you can perform with a bunch of random items to turn a Pokemon into Celebi, but then you are left without the base moves that Celebi is supposed to have, and it just doesn't feel very legit, especially since it starts with some of its best moves. So I used the VBA's built-in Game Shark to activate the code which activated the GS Ball event, which was programmed into the game, just never utilized in the international release of the game. With some crafty work from my catching machine, Parasect, we were able to capture Celebi with little resistance, and my work in Generation 2 is done. A childhood dream I am finally able to cross off the bucket list. I've always wanted to complete the Pokédex in these games, as Pokemon was probably the biggest and most important part of my childhood, as sad as that may sound to some people. I didn't really imagine completing it to this degree as a full living Pokédex, but go big or go home, I guess. It's a shame this is something most people have to do by themselves these days, but I guess that's part of being an adult. Friends move away, work is often, and spouses don't always get into video games the same way we do. But there is a sense of accomplishment completing something of this caliber by yourself. There are a few things left to do in the game, like the Unknown Dex, beating Red, and challenging the Battle Tower, but those are things I can do on my own free time now that the Living Dex challenge is completed. The total recorded in-game time spent was 47:46 in Crystal, 15:53 in Gold, 4:11 in Blue, and 13:16 in Red, for a total of 81 hours and 6 minutes. With an addition of time resetting for all the starters and times I screwed up and lost progress, it was probably more like 85 or so hours. Now if you're thinking, was it worth it? I would say yes, but also no. I streamed almost all of the journey on Twitch, and I'm limited to 2 days per week, which was about 10 hours per week of playtime. At that rate, it took me about 2.5 months to finish it. In that way, it probably wasn't entirely worth it. However, what inspired me to finally do this challenge was the completion of the non-living Pokédex in Fire Red, which I did casually on breaks at work, and while in bed some evenings, which was a lot of fun to do. As a casual challenge, I would absolutely recommend a Living Dex challenge, or at least just filling out all the pages in the Pokédex. However, being limited to when I can work on it due to streaming limitations, as well as moving save files around on the computer and sometimes screwing up and losing some progress, made it less fun than I'd hoped, and I feel a huge sense of accomplishment for it. Generation 2 was a bit of a pain, as there were lots of places where it wasn't worth catching Pokemon on my first pass through a route or cave, and I had to go back better equipped. Generation 3 doesn't have this problem with the day and night cycle. Pokemon don't flee in Gen 3, apart from the Safari Zone, and there are fewer low encounter Pokemon, and there are only 2 roaming legends you have to worry about, provided you have all the games. That being said, Colosseum and XD will have their own struggles in lieu of having better access to Pokemon like Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, the Johto starters, as well as Safari's Pokemon like Chansey and Scyther. That being said, I'm so excited to get started on the Gen 3 Living Dex in Pokemon Emerald. I will be streaming it on YouTube and Twitch, so be sure to stick around so you can join on this huge undertaking. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and if you've made it this far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. You can always change your mind later. If you've made it to the end of the video, share in the comments if you've ever attempted or completed a Pokedex and in which game. Again, thank you all for watching, and to everyone who joined me on this adventure on Twitch. And until next time, keep filling up those Pokedexes.